um, your subscription fees and how much you're paying a month for all of this.
Yeah.
And I got to admit, in the builders group, sometimes I'm like, I'm out because there's so much jargon being slung around.
This is my biggest pain point. The jargon is insane because it's both useful and insufferable.
Yeah, I think it's like, that's what I'm like. That is when I'm really excited about this group, because I'm like, I'm sure there's some people where they don't get that everywhere, because you're not going to find that on LinkedIn. And that's the whole point of Humans in the Loop. Just so that we're all on the same page, this is meant for sharing, community building, and learning. It is not meant for social media outputs from you all and that kind of stuff. It's just really meant, Joe is very kind to extend his learning, what he's doing for us to learn. He's not being paid for this. One day I hope that Humans in the Loop will be in a position to do so. But right now we're kind of grassroots in that way. I'm looking for, speaking of grassroots, I'm looking for the record button on Google.
Mine is recording it says, if you do a little ... next to the hang up button, it's in that menu. But I'll just say, I don't mind this being recorded. I have practiced keeping my shit off the stream, my keys and my secrets off the stream. But if you'll grant me a little grace, if I do get into it and really want to show you guys how reckless I am with this stuff sometimes, allow us to at least redact my private keys and don't screenshot them.
Of course.
But,
record. Why is it? Well, I'm a
I think it's because the bot is already recording. I'll send you my recording. Yeah.
All right. So without further ado, Joe Amditis is going to show us his desktop setup. If you have a desktop share that you would like to do at one point, please let me know. We'd all love to see it. And Bert, I'm going to circle back to you. I want to know how you used agents to power Hacks Hackers this year.
That would be great. I would love to hear that too. I've been dying to hear that because I heard that you built the whole thing yourself. I also did that for this Collaborative Journalism Summit. And it's not often that a vibe coder gets to actually have more than maybe 3 or 4 users outside of their family. So to see it battle tested in the real time is a true landmark there.
And the first time I saw like an MCP connect from on an events page. Right? Oh. So that agents could talk to agents. Anyway.
I didn't know you had that. You got to tell me about that. Yeah.
Joe Amditis, please take it away.
All right. So hello, everybody. My name is Joe Amditis. I am Associate Director of Operations at the Center for Cooperative Media. I've been there for about 12 years now, actually a little over 12 years as of June. And I am not a software engineer. My dad is a 40-year veteran software engineer, assembly and C and all that kind of stuff. But I come from background of being on the computer. It is one of my favorite things to do. Since I was a child, I always knew I wanted to be inside on the computer. I used to mod video games like Halo CE when it first came out when I was like 13 or 14. And the earliest YouTube video I ever uploaded was me, prepubescent voice, explaining how to use 3D Studio Max to import a new plasma pistol into Halo. And so the HaloModdingCentral.com was my first website, first time I got hacked. And in between there, I guess, I don't know what happened. I guess I want to say it was me smoking weed, but I still smoke weed and I love doing this stuff. So I don't know why I didn't go into that field. I should have stayed in 3D modeling. I could have been making a lot more money. But all this to say is I know what I'm doing only insofar as I spend my time looking into it, exploring it, being curious and being excited by it. I do not come from a formal development or software engineer education. And so that's getting that out of the way. I'm going to say some shit that maybe some actual developers either cringe at or whatever. This is my perpetual fear, as I'm sure many of you feel as well.
Judgment.
Yeah. Please correct me. One caveat, one caution before we do. I also talk really fast and I get excited. And I've already informed Amy she has permission to interrupt and say, suave, slow down, like chill. And you all have permission to do that as well. Tell me to go back. I'm going to spend about 15, 20 minutes going over the setup. I'll start with the specs of the machines that I use as a daily driver. And then I'll get into some of the more obnoxious sort of nerdy $200 things that I've spent money on. Up front, the costs, the subscription costs, let's knock those out. The center pays for a $200 a month Claude Max plan for me. I pay for a $200 Max Claude plan for myself on the side because I felt weird working at a public university and using their tokens they provided me to make bullshit that is not related to my job. However, I will, if I have one piece of advice, it's to make bullshit that's not related to your job, because the amount of stuff I've learned that has been directly applicable and has made things possible that otherwise I would never have known how to do, that came from those bullshit side projects, is one-to-one. Like, it is just so incredibly valuable. It's so much more fun to work on them. And then you go, oh my God, I've already had to figure out OAuth and user logins for this stupid Discord clone I tried to make with my brother, and learn the lessons the hard way on that. Now, when I go to do something for work, I have some more experience. So that would be my big framework.
Did you vibe code this year's summit website using your Claude Code so in many ways, you build a whole website in 1 year's time. They've spent, what is that, $2,400? They probably got that, earned it all back by now.
It was a 5 month of subscription, so $1,000. Wait, yeah. I'm also not good at math, which is a scary thing to be doing on computers. But yes. And on top of that, the total cost of recurring subscriptions and everything for that entire summit, not just the front end, but not just the user stuff, a full interactive CMS on the back end, email broadcast client, invoice generator, video renderer, cloud on-device and cloud video renderer, and technically, although it didn't make it to launch, a mobile companion web game that was like a scavenger hunt with a bunch of stuff that I'm very, very sad and only like a few people saw and got to test. But that whole cost, I think it was $86 over the course of the 5 months for the hosting, the database, all of that stuff. The biggest cost was the Claude Code subscription. And this was at the same time I was doing my 200 and their 200. What I would do is I would drop the 200 and then I would immediately downgrade my subscription, so that if a month went by, I was hit with a $20 fee and all I had to do was like buy another month, because I got burned by that. Recently, I have switched my $200 extra $200 Claude Code down to $20 and gone over to Codex, because GitHub screwed everybody over and switched to usage-based for their PR review bots. We'll get into that later. But it's very important for me to have different models reviewing the code that one model generates in an adversarial capacity before it reaches production. I'm getting ahead of myself already. I already promised I wouldn't do this. Let's talk about specs. I'll just share my screen. I got a bunch of shit going on, so let me just share the whole desktop, and we will get into it. So this is my pewter. It is let's see here. The specs for my machine are, come on, there we go. These are the specs for my machine. I have an i9. I have 32 gigs of RAM, about 16 gigs of VRAM on an NVIDIA RTX 4080 Super. Bought this in 2025. It's a Lenovo Legion. I bought it because big number is big, computer is good. And I didn't really know much about what I needed, but I bought the most expensive one that I could afford at the time. It's a pre-built. I've tried to build my own computer. At one point, it was a nightmare, and I'm a Best Buy boy. Now a Micro Center boy, now that they have one in Patterson that's been reopened. This machine is great. It's full of a bunch of random stuff that is from personal stuff, gaming, and I've tried to use, and it's been really great using Claude actually to help me sort of clean that stuff up. So that's the machine I use. The tools that I use to use Claude Code.
How big is your monitor?
Oh, how big is my monitor? I have two monitors. They are.
So you see echo.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I know why. Hold on. It's because I shared the stream audio at the same time. 1 second. I'll turn that off.
I think that solved it.
That should solve it now. You don't go anywhere. Yeah, I always forget that happens. It is, I'm gonna say it's like a 20-inch. Why does
You're not like on a gaming monitor. You're like in a normal sized.
I'm on two Acer monitors. It's
two. So you get two monitors.
I got to do two monitors. Yeah, I got to do two monitors. I also like to have my one on the left angled up a little bit so I can have my phone down or whatever. But yeah, so that's.
Later you'll send us a photo of that.
Let me just do that now. Let me do that right now. There we go. Look at that. There's the setup. All right, let me make sure my pills are out of the way. Yeah, so it's two monitors, but most of the time, honestly, I mostly interact with Claude in two ways. One is on my Raspberry Pi. I have two Raspberry Pis, but I really only need one. I highly recommend you invest in a Raspberry Pi. It's about $250. This is an 8 gigabyte Raspberry Pi. that is sitting in my office with me, and it is on all the time. And I'll tell you why that becomes relevant later on.
Is a Raspberry Pi a physical?
It is a little bot. I'll take a pic of it for that as well.
Yep.
And you can see exactly what's going on with the Raspberry Pi. It's a tiny little box. It's about the size of a fat wallet. And it has 8 gigs of RAM. I also have one that has 16 gigs of RAM because my mom didn't want I wanted to outdo my dad. So she got me a second one. I use something called Cockpit, which is a Linux dashboard that lets me access the terminal, update the Pi, navigate the file system and everything. It's free because it's Linux, and it's really great. You can see here I'm having it edit a website on this one. This one is idle almost, although there are a lot of spikes because I just updated it. Running Claude Code. This is running CMux, which is a version of TMux, which allows you to do things like add additional sessions and tabs in your terminal and go back and forth between them. And I have a bunch of stuff on with my various tools and websites and stuff that show you how to set this up, how to run persistent sessions, because running persistent sessions is the thing that has really unlocked the ability to do real substantive asynchronous work. And that having cron jobs, which are just scheduled tasks or Python scripts that start or do something, only works if the machine that those are running on are on all the time. And because this is a fat boy computer, it eats a lot of electricity, and I just don't want to leave it running all the time. That being said, the Raspberry Pi acts as a sort of like central coordinator and actually can use Wake on LAN to wake up my big GPU computer. And that is exactly how we did the video rendering for the Collaborative Journalism Summit. When there's a new speaker, the Raspberry Pi takes it from the database, wakes up my gaming PC, uses the GPU to render the video, which then drops into Google Drive and then is available to anyone. But again, I am getting ahead of myself. The other way I interact with on this local machine is obviously through the terminal, but I love using voice input. But I hate the native Windows dictation. Mac is great. Windows is dog shit, but even Mac doesn't auto send the message, and it doesn't automatically send it to the terminal window. So I made my own. It's called Audio Bash. I am very proud of this. I made it myself, and it has all the different features that I like, and it almost exposed my entire ass to the internet when I was first trying to do this because I didn't know what I was doing, and I set up port forwarding because why would it be hard to send text from my phone to go directly into the terminal of my computer? And all I need is a alphanumeric password, 6 digits, to access it, and only to find out that is, of course, very, very dangerous. But this is Audio Bash, and the reason I like it is because it has a couple things, folders. I can choose the directory that I want to work in, but the big thing is the voice. So this thing has locally run whisper model that transcribes quite literally what you're saying and can output it. And when the recording stops, it auto sends. Now, obviously, I'm not in Claude Code, so it's going to generate an error, obviously. So that would be where I would switch to agent mode, which translates your plain text conversations or chats into bash commands, why it's called Audio Bash. So for instance, open Microsoft Edge, and when it fails, it reads the context and it opens it correctly. So you could do open Microsoft Edge, and you go over and over. I never use this part. It's just raw transcription right into Claude Code. But I love it because when I do this, I don't have to have it active. I can have it completely minimized and go, tell me a little bit about this machine. And we can see that gets, boom, it jumps right in. Yep. So before we start, I'm actually going to log into the different account because, as you can see, I am at 90% usage on my school one. So I'm going to log into my non-school one while we do this. Any questions before I move on? Because I know I just dumped a lot at you.
Hey, Bert, why don't you unmute if you're able to, and if not, then I'll just read your questions.
Oh, I just didn't want to interrupt Joe. Yeah, while I was explaining all this, but no, and this is getting maybe too geeky too. I don't want to go.
That's what we're here for.
On people. No, because he has a Raspberry Pi. I assume you have Tailscale running between them all, right?
Of course. Oh my God.
What
I
is
don't know
that?
how that shit is free.
Okay,
Oh my
and
God.
explain Tailscale for those who don't understand, and that would have solved your port forwarding thing, wouldn't have
It literally
as well?
did. That is exactly what it did.
Right. Yes.
Tailscale is a free, secure, network mesh tool that is free for personal use on like a million different machines. It's crazy. I don't know how they make money. Probably
100
enterprise clients.
is a match,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's a lot.
It allows you, it has changed the game for me because it allows you to have a secure private network among machines that are not even on the same, in the same location. Highly recommend doing it. Anybody who has really gotten into this has probably encountered Tailscale or something like it. And I can tell you 150% that it is a great time investment, and it requires almost no time investment. It's fully accessible via CLI. The agents love it. I love it. I used it originally because I had an old mini PC that I had bought, and I decided to try to flash Linux and get rid of Windows on my first ever attempt to do that, and use it as a game server for my brothers and I to play Minecraft without having to pay Mojang like $8 a month or whatever it is. And then I realized we only play Minecraft 2 weeks every year, so the rest of the time I'm using it as a backup offsite server at my brother's house. But you don't even need a Raspberry Pi. You can have any shitty old laptop, anything with 8 gigs of RAM. That's really all you need, because it runs a headless machine. So it doesn't need a GPU. It doesn't need a user, a GUI, a GUI, graphical user interface. The overhead for processing is so low. It's just the headless programs running on it. So you can convert an old laptop. You can convert an old dusty mini PC. I've seen people try to do like an old Samsung phone, anything that you can, that has a kernel or has an operating system that you could put Linux on, you can put Claude Code on. And Claude loves Linux. Claude loves a headless machine. And there are tools that let you do a virtual desktop anyway, which I'll also show you later for things that do require GUIs like Claude in Chrome or something, or Playwright.
I lost you for a second too. I wanted to do another promo for Tailscale. Just what is very cool about it. It also even will run on an Apple TV at your house. But you can also, what you can use it for is basically like a free VPN. If you're in another country or whatever, you can have it use one of your computers at home as your exit node on the internet. So basically you can be like you're at home no matter where you are and run your internet through that, including through an Apple TV, which is
my
cool.
Google TV streamer is also on there as well. Yeah. Yeah. Not to mention it also, you can also do Tailserve or Tailscale Serve. So in it, like somewhat like Cloudflare's, tunnels and stuff, you can serve websites from Tailscale so that you can preview you don't have to spin up a local dev server and eat up a bunch of processing power on the Pi. You can actually serve local, you can serve live websites or whatever for dev builds through Tailscale. It is, and the other day I even went in and I was like, I feel like we're underutilizing Tailscale. Claude, how can we use Tailscale better to its max? And there are just so many ways.
Oh, that's cool. Snuda has a comment in the.
Yeah, go for it.
You're running Hermes on an old Android phone. Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, yeah.
That's fun.
So that is one thing. I'm glad you brought that up, because that is one thing that I never really did. The farthest I got with any of these, OpenClaw or Hermes was quite literally when it first came out. I was like, oh, I guess I'll try OpenClaw because I haven't done Discord yet. And I realized I already built that. I already built my own. It's already fine. I do most of it through Telegram already. And that was around the time that all the people were freaking out about the security issues around OpenClaw. And then I saw that their own CI/CD wasn't, was failing on the repo on like the main branch. And I was like, let me just stick with my system. And I've been fine since. But yeah, I would be interested to hear what you all who use Hermes or OpenClaw feel is the biggest benefit, other than, I guess, maybe having all that stuff sort of half set up for you in advance so you don't have to go through that. But for me, I find it easier to keep that mental model of where all the connectors are by quote unquote building it myself. Look at me, I'm already like looking down on OpenClaw as if it's a lower vibe coding level, but no, whatever works for you.
So Joe, why are you doing all of this? Like, what is, and that's why?
I have a good answer. I have a good answer for this, and it's an honest one, but continue.
I sort of figured it out. There was the Humans in the Loop group really took off in February as we talked about Obsidian servers And I have a feeling like we've moved into a totally different territory with AI in terms of like the external brains or the MCPs and all of that. Like we're looking at AI as a complete foundational layer to all of the work that we're doing. So why do you have this set up this way? What are you doing it? Why?
The real answer is the reason, especially why I made this and why I did all this, is because I didn't want to have to get up and press enter on my phone. I didn't want to have to press enter. I didn't want to have to type. I wanted to just be able to discuss and talk, but I weirdly don't like when it talks back to me. I just want to be able to enter text. But why am I doing all this? Because number one, it feels like every factory crafting game that I've played and love. Satisfactory, Factorio, Minecraft, all the systems engineering game programs disguised as video games that have taught me so much about system design and logistics and managing resources and inputs and outputs and splitters and mergers and transformers and manufacturers. All that kind of stuff maps so perfectly onto this apparatus and this type of workflow that it clicked in my head. I was like, I can spend 12 hours on Satisfactory making the most brilliant nuclear fusion or nuclear spaghetti or whatever recipes and blueprints and everything. And then when I'm done, I get up from my computer, I go, isn't this great? And everybody looks at me like, yeah, very cool. And I have nothing to show for it other than to other gaming people. Whereas here, any idea, any curiosity that I have when it comes to using my computer, I can explore that. And what I mean by that is there are things that annoy me about the computer and the way that it functions and the way software works and is built. And that used to be a major burden or obstacle to me. And I would have to find clever workarounds, whether it's a Zapier automation or a keyboard shortcut or some browser extension that somebody else made that I don't fully understand. Now I can say, I want this to do this when I click this. And I spend some time doing it. I go eat a sandwich. I check in on my conversations using remote control, which of course Anthropic launched 3 weeks after I finally figured out how to do my own version, and they launched it. And I was like, great, waste of time. But it's so that I can be on the computer in a more meaningful way and really swim through and navigate this machine and other machines, things like Linux, which again, I'm not a computer builder guy. I'm not somebody that could put through that it can go through the Linux even installation in the terminal until then. Now I feel more comfortable with this kind of stuff, and I feel more at home even in these kind of environments and using these kind of tools because I know that I can talk to my computer and my computer can do what I tell it to within reason. And that is just something that has never really been accessible to me before, even though I have a very high level interest in how computers work. I just never had the math or engineering skills or education, I would say, or time to do the education to really do anything meaningful without it being my full-time job. Ironically, it's sort of become my full-time job now, but I feel much more comfortable doing it.
Do you think your experience in the last, let's say, 6 to 8 months is more informative for how audiences are going to engage with news, or more informative to how newsrooms might be able to leverage their data to distribute, sort to audiences?
I think ultimately the thing that I've learned from this is that this is a full-time job if you want to do it right. There are levels to this where you can enhance or, improve your workflows or whatever you're doing. And we can talk about the ways that I've tried to set up and get out of the mindset of like everybody needs their own Claude subscription at your organization and move towards a more centralized organizational serving agents. But ultimately, I am constantly baffled by people's unwillingness or inability to even have the basic level of curiosity about their machines that they use to do their job and make a living. And so I think until we get to a point where I don't have to wait a minute and 40 seconds for a high level media professional to figure out how to share their screen and hit present on a slideshow. I think it's going to be increasingly tailored to and approved and enjoyed by people who genuinely have a serious interest in technology and their computers. The consumer level stuff, we're still so early. The number of people I talk to who are still using and complaining about Claude.ai, the chat window, or Gemini, the chat window, is baffling and frustrating. And I want to shake them and go, but you don't understand. There's like many more levels to what you can do. Do you have a GitHub account? What's GitHub? Okay, so let's back up, basically, is where that comes from. So it's probably not a great answer to your question, but I think it's still way too early. I think it's still too scary. This shit scares the hell out of people. Even this interface scares the hell out of people sometimes. And it's just not at the point where I feel like I can make that determination.
Yeah. So in February, the group was talking a lot about Obsidian servers, MCPs, connecting your external brain to a server. And then like a week later, Claude released Claude Code. And I was like, oh, this is sort of like that, but not entirely, because you're not like, and tell me if I'm thinking about this in the right way. The Obsidian server MCP, that is your storage of your whatever information you want to have in it. Whereas Claude Cowork is sort of building a dependency on Claude and that monthly subscription.
Yeah, I still don't know what the hell Claude Cowork is supposed to be, other than a soft launch of Claude Code for people who are scared of the terminal. And I
think that's exactly what it is.
I think so too, because ultimately what's happening is, even if you use Claude Cowork, we're still talking about organizing your local directories and just pointing Claude at your local directory and saying, make something in here, right? It is not only that, but the desktop app. It's so funny because Claude Code is an incredible piece of software. Claude, the desktop app, is bloat. It is clunky. It's glitchy. You notice also that when I talk about Claude Code on the web, I use the web version. I've only just started using the mobile app because it pushes notifications when something is using the Ask User Question tool. But overwhelmingly, I use Claude and Codex and all that stuff on the web or on the mobile web. It is not stable. And the desktop app, I uninstalled that shit because it was dropping gigabyte level memory leaks and persistent processes that you can't even kill. And if you do kill it, it comes right back like 40 minutes later. So I finally uninstalled it. And then yesterday I even found 10 gigabytes of local roaming app data just sitting there from the desktop install. So I don't know what's going on with Anthropic's Electron department, but it is a nightmare. Why is this not loading? It is a nightmare.
So the last question I'll ask, and then we'll turn it over to the group. And the group, please feel free to share your experiences. I love that Daria says Claude Cowork is so useless. There's a lot of chat in the builders group about the 300, what is it? And then you get kicked out. And then like, how are you thinking about this in terms of efficiency for yourself so that you're maximizing what's possible while also keeping in mind your token usage and that kind of stuff? Like how are you balancing that, and what should people be thinking about as they're...
I go back and forth. The $200 a month plan is more than enough for me to do my job and the things that are required of me in my job. Now, to be fair, every time I do my job well, that seems to increase the expectations of what doing your job well is, as I'm sure is a very familiar thing. But for managing day-to-day operations, for doing shit on the computer, for my job, for my boss, a single $200 a month plan is more than enough. It is the side projects and the curiosities and investigations and explorations that end up burning all of my tokens, that end up making me completely always come back to refreshing and getting another $200 a month on my personal one. I just haven't encountered a situation where the limits have really hit me, unless I'm running like ultra code on max, across massive databases. There are ways that you can certainly ruin your monthly token usage, but it really is not, it's not bad at figuring out and managing tokens. The thing is, you have to build in your knowledge base or your architecture and what I've been using lately is the wikis, which I really have enjoyed. You have to, and I was talking to you before we started this call, the way that I see these things and the way that I think about these agents is it's like an amazing chaos entity that has one a single mindset that is get to the goal. And across the way, along the way to that goal are a bunch of booby traps, hazards, and dangers. And your job as someone who's managing these agents is to put up bridges and walls and bumpers and, Uno reverses and reminders and nudges so that over time, as it tries to traverse that dangerous territory, those blockers and bumpers are in place to get you where you're going. And I say this because I try to use these things I use AI to make stuff that doesn't need AI to run. Because my biggest concern is, and we're already seeing this, is that these things are going the way of Uber and Lyft. And I've been saying this for months. They are subsidizing the hell out of us right now. It's clear from the cost of token usage. And if I resume a conversation, I have my status line set up so that it tracks the API usage of like how much it would cost if I were just using the API tokens. Yeah. And every single one of these conversations ends up being, anywhere from $50 to $150 to $200 for a single 2 or 3 hour session. So it's very clear that the cost of this thing is going up, especially if you're using these frontier cloud-based models. So my goal is to, if the whole AI agent thing shits the bed and shuts down, the tools that I've built will continue working. Now, will I be able to maintain them? Fuck no. Will I be able to fix them if they break? Probably not. But it is incredible how much subsidy the users are getting. And I think that's coming to an end. So I don't know what that's going to look like in terms of token management in the future. But for me, it is one task per session or one task per thread, and heavy reliance on GitHub issues, detailed GitHub issues to track and to manage the to-do lists of those agents.
So of all your subscriptions that you paid for a month, what is your best value?
Claude Code. I mean, it's Claude Code, and I have a GitHub Pro account because I have an EDU email address, but even that's like $4 a month. So it's GitHub and it's Claude Code.
Okay, I will go down the list. Bert Herman asks, with all your computers, you're not running any local AI models, are you?
Not yet. Well, I am running some local transcription models for sure, and I'm trying to train a Gemma 4B. I did somehow manage to convince my boss to get me an RTX or GDX Spark. What's the not the new one that just came out? The GPX Spark or whatever. Why am I blanking on this? It's like a $4,000, it's $4,600, 128 gigabytes of unified memory, Gavin Belson box that sits on your desk. The jury's still out on whether or not I have anything to do with that, but my goal is to try to at least set up some kind of local situation where I'm using smaller models to do very targeted, specific, 6 to 12 types of Python edits or types of coding tasks. And I have thousands and thousands of traces from my conversations, from code reviews and PR reviews that I've saved and embedded and prepped and everything. I think this is here. Let's see, Gemma. Yeah. So I kind of stopped doing this for a while, but I've spent about 48 hours of total GPU time on this, and I experimented with using something called RunPod, which lets you rent GPUs from the cloud at a reasonable price, about like $1.50 an hour for like an A4000 or an A100 or whatever the other ones is, H200s. And so far I've seen some really good results. I have a lot more to do. You can see here, these are the validation losses over time on the different runs using the Carpathia 3-file auto research loop, which I can drop a link to. It's a little annoying to explain it and might get too in the weeds, but it is possible. And I am planning on doing that. I just need I need more bulky hardware, and I need a serious computer to do that, not one that's muddied with me playing, Call of Duty alongside of, trying to train, machine learning and stuff. But on a 4080 Super on a consumer device, I've been able to see some results. I'm still at the point where I haven't done any actual inference because I don't think that's very likely on this machine. And I still have more to understand about how this all works and how I can get there. But so far I've paid about $52. And what I would have paid is about $487 in the Claude API equivalent, just to get to this point where I've been able to train it on certain things.
Have you written about that?
Yeah, this is my thing here. I'll drop the thing in the chat.
That's amazing, because I think that is so useful, because I just have a sense of how much things are costing.
DGX, thank you, Scott. Yes.
So Tom Valiant asks, he'd like to know your Claude Code configuration.
Yes.
And your
Yeah.
coding approach, and in parentheses, given large versus minimal tasks.
Yes. Let's see if this can paste into here. Here is my global. No, it does not. Here, I'll put it into a Google Doc. Here's my global Claude on the web. This is the one I have on the web. And there are versions of this that exist. Ignore the incessant insisting on not doing title case. I fucking hate title case. And I use that as an early litmus test of which model can effectively write in sentence case, because it's actually a lot harder and more nuanced than you might think on surface. It's very easy to capitalize every first letter of every word in a headline. Very easy to do all lowercase. It's not as easy to be able to identify acronyms and proper nouns in a headline and know which ones to capitalize. Claude is the one that's always been able to do that, and yet I still have to reinforce it. What it looks like in and this is where I'm going to get really close to exposing some keys here. Let's see. Yeah, fuck it. You guys won't tell anybody, I hope. Let's see. So go to home. Yeah, we're just going to go up here. Home, Joe Amditis, Claude. This is on the Pi. I use it as like a fleet setup. So I have multiple machines. Let me just take this, copy this, go over here. Again, oh, that's not what I meant to Google. I just put all my API keys into the Google search. So hopefully that doesn't get leaked out on the web. Essentially, it's 15 pages. It's very long. I know a lot of people don't like this, but because I'm managing so many projects and I launch every Claude Code session from the root directory of the Pi, because I gave Claude this machine. This is Claude's machine to do whatever it wants with, and then I don't have to worry about that. It has its own Gmail account, Google Drive, and everything. So I dump everything into the top here, and it is a series of hooks and anchors and nudges that force it to do certain things when it starts.
Is this a static context document?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Well, static in the sense that it is, there's no variables, but when I do something, it updates it. When I tell it to make a new rule, or I tell it I don't want you to do this, or I have to remind you, it updates the global Claude. But each individual project folder or repository has its own set of instructions, and then the session start hooks and pre-tool use hooks I like to do this very strong. I like to force it to do things like a maximum of X number of local codex code reviews before we push a PR. When we push a PR, there's one cloud connector review that goes on. Then I'm the only one who can merge PRs. It can address comments, it can resolve conversations, and it can wait until CI is green, which is continuous integration to the tests, linters, and rough and stuff like that, that keep the code clean and on track. But for me, there are certain stops that I have to, I have to approve. But it's very gated. Like, if you want, let's give it a task. We can see how it behaves. Does anybody have a task or an instruction or a project that it keeps messing up on, that we can see how this approach works?
Well, I just have an example. Like, I tried.
Yeah.
I feel like what I liked about OpenAI's GPTs that you could create is they had a static 8,000 character context window, and as long as you updated it with whatever was pertinent. But then I switched over to Claude, and I have one for my work and career, for example. And every time I'm like, hey, I want to pitch this idea to this thing, and then they're like, well, that's going to come into conflict with your job at the AP. And I was like, I told you before that I left AP May 1st. Get this. Keep remembering it, and that gets really annoying. I realize I have to update my context file, but I wish that it would update it automatically, or at least understand through all of the uses of it, and it doesn't. So I think like this result,
that is exactly the problem that I had. That's why I made this. I'm sorry, not this. This is the wrong one. This one, auto context. So this is one of my favorite plugins that I've made, because again, it relies on the Carpathy three file loop, but it is essentially when it scores the rules and memories that I have based on how often they are brought up in a conversation, and it runs in the background as a session hook. And when I make corrections, those lessons accumulate per skill with different confidence scores.
Yeah.
And every time one is updated or one is referenced, that gets tracked and re-upped, and the confidence that is an important rule to follow, it floats that sort of closer to the top. So it is constantly refreshing its own memory. And then I got a little carried away.
What is that called again? I think John Keefe asked what that was called again.
Auto context. Here, let me put it in the
Can you
chat.
drop it in?
Yeah. All that stuff is basically at skills.amditis.tech, and I keep that pretty fresh.
Good.
The other thing that I really have been enjoying is called I swear to God, I came up with this. This is dated May 13th. This is before they announced it, and I swear to God, they stole my idea. But I have a persistent session that runs for Slack all the time called Pattern. It's based on the Stormlight Archive, the Spren in the Stormlight Archive by Brandon Sanderson, which is actually weirdly useful frameworks for Claude to understand that there are different roles and personas that it does. But I have it dream overnight. So throughout the day, during the conversations that it has, it populates a database with rules and memories or things like that. And then overnight, it curates those memories and elevates them and promotes them from immediate or short-term memories to medium-term to long-term memories based on how frequently those things come up. And it has to pass a certain threshold in order to promote it to a more durable memory. And over time, you don't really see this happening, but over time, I just sort of see people complaining on Twitter that, oh, this doesn't work. And I'm over here like, what are you talking about? We're using a different machine, like a different program. And in fact, I think it is very much due to the recursive sort of self-improvement that happens at 2 a.m. every night, where the Claude session is instructed to review the candidates for memories. And anytime I obviously type /remember or tell it something, that is automatically canonical. Things that don't come up a lot eventually age out because they become stale. I'll put this in the chat as well. And the way that I write these things, I try to write them with the understanding that you should be able to point your agent at this and go, hey, this isn't exactly tailored to my system, but what principles can we derive or processes can we derive from this example to help improve our own system? That's always how I take the approach. Whenever I come across a new concept or a new workflow, I point Claude at it and go, hey, take a look at our system. What lessons can we learn from this? What do we do better than that? And how can we incorporate this? And then I have like a 1 or 2 week testing phase where both of those systems sort of exist in parallel. And then once I confirm that the new system is better, I will migrate that and that'll become the main sort of approach.
Do you feel seen by your setup, or do you feel like you've just fed it everything and so it's just mirroring back?
What do you mean? Can you elaborate on that? What do you mean?
Yeah. Do you feel seen, but do you feel like your setup gets you, or do you feel like it gets you because you fed it everything about what you want it to do and what you want it to know about you?
I feel like I am I feel like I'm very comfortable with the system. I guess the way that I would be able to answer that is my prompts are mostly unformatted 8 or 9 word sentences. Mm-hmm. And because I have it set up so rigidly that all I have to do is make sure there's a few keywords in there to direct the model of where to look. And it bounces off those bumpers and guardrails that I've set up to the point where there's only one option left to it. Like it's very hard for ambiguity to peep in. And usually when I do start the session, I will watch to make sure that it is, following the instructions correctly and going to the right place. And after that, it's all traced. And the biggest benefit there, the reason why I feel like it is tailored to me is the most annoying thing that I've noticed is that Claude will often, and Codex does the same thing, all of them do this, they'll be working on a specific task. And in the course of that, in the thinking traces, you'll see it say, there's some pre-existing issue, or this test failed because, but that was other work, as if Claude didn't build that work. Like it acts like it's not its work, and it'll say, I'll remember this for later. And one of the things I come back to over and over again, I had to be like, no, when you notice something that's out of scope or pre-existing or whatever, you don't just file it in a piece of on a napkin in your back pocket and then throw it away or leave it in your pants when you go do laundry or compact. You open a GitHub issue, you file it as an issue. Immediately, you defer it, you file it as an issue. Then we come back to the issues in later sessions and we can solve those things. That has been the biggest productivity boost. of anything recently, because the way that the other part of my system works is fully autonomous wake sessions, which you can see just finished now. This is Claude Code, excuse my language. This is the Telegram bot interface where I just get reports from it. And every hour during work days, Monday through Friday, a cron job fires and pipes into Pattern, which is my persistent session. Good Lord. Pipes a wake session here. There's the dream scheduler. Another dream scheduler. It was dreaming a lot last night. And also, I think I'm logged into the wrong account. No, yeah, I'm logged into the wrong account. It pipes that into a persistent session. It used to be a -P, a non-interactive session, but Anthropic scared the shit out of me and said that they were going to be moving that to usage-based. So I know that as long as there's a CLI, you can trick a terminal into thinking that it's an interactive session. So I have 3 interactive sessions, all named after Spren from the Stormlight Archive. And this is what a wake session. Why are they all dream sessions? Anyway, it gets an injection.
Is that
Say again?
Are the dream sessions different colors? Is that how you notice? Right
No,
away?
it says dream scheduler right there. So I'm just saying that. I'm confused as to why I'm not seeing
Brian
it.
Hopman asks, he said, hypothetically, suppose someone had a nearly unlimited amount of tokens to spend on Codex. Should they also be trying to do lots of work in Claude, or can you just about do everything can Claude do just about everything that Codex can do? It sounds like you're red teaming them against each other, or at least trying to review.
I am, but it's the same thing. I used to find Codex a little bit less intuitive. I used to find Codex to be, a little more rigid and dry. But to be honest, it really, the guardrails work the same way. And that is what I find really useful. Here's one that, by the way, here's an injection from a Slack message instead of a dream cycle. Codex is fine. In fact, Codex and Claude can both read agents.md and Claude.md as long as one of them has a single line that says treat the other one as the definitive agent's memory for this. So, Codex is just as capable. I do find the interface of Codex to be less enjoyable. That might just be because I've spent so much time with Claude Code, but Codex is fine for me. It is kind of annoying. Their dangerously skip permissions thing is a little bit longer to type. And as you can see here, it's failing all my MCPs because I hate MCPs for the most part. And I just haven't disabled them. But, tell me about my playground. Let's do crime/playground projects. It's essentially the same interface. They all bump off the same guardrails and stuff. But for me, I prefer to have Claude call Codex. So let's see. I think I should have an open pull request here. Yeah, I got a couple. So this is what how I'll usually start a session. I'll just close this here. I'll go over to my Pi and I'll just say, using my other little voice input that I really am liking called Audio Bud, which is a swamp and frog theme. But anyway, I'll just say, let's burn down some of the open PRs. That's it. That's the whole prompt. And it's now going to run the session start hooks. It's going to go through the process of identifying what the hell am I talking about. It knows the user wants to work through open pull requests. Let me zoom in for you guys. It's already found them. It's looking through the open PR history. The user wants to work through the open pull requests, get them reviewed and merged. I need to start by checking which repos, CLI, blah, blah, blah. So it just has all that information. So if we go down here, it's finding out which org I'm talking about. And if I really wanted to, I could just come in here and go, I could just say it's Joe Amditis. That's it. I probably didn't even have to do that. It already found it. Yeah, there we go. 6 open PRs across 3 repos. Do I really have 6? What do you mean? Huh, interesting. Let's pull detailed status. I don't even need to send that other message. Let's get rid of that. And now it's just going to go through the process. And the process is local Codex CLI reviews until we reach convergence. I like to run low reasoning first. Low reasoning is quicker. Or low effort ones from Codex on 5.4 are really quick and easy, and they get things that some of the higher effort models overlook or overthink. And then for serious complex things, I run a 5.5x high codex and then fix those issues and just go back and forth until it reaches convergence where all three of the models agree there's nothing wrong with this. Then it opens the PR and waits for the Codex Cloud Connector PR review bot to come in. Here we go, clean. It's found all the PRs. It's going to dig into the blockers. So it just knows it has the pathway. It's just a boing, 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 bouncing off the walls until we get to no more places to bounce off of. Then we can move forward. It's found the comments and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. John Keefe asked, do you have a guide on how you set up the GitHub issues setup? Or do you have a guide on how
that is coming. That is coming. I have something like that. I think I shared that in the chat a while back. I can pull out the old one. I need to refresh it. I think it's called autonomy. There we go. Yeah, it's this. This is a slightly outdated because it is from May, but the core is still roughly the same. I think it still says GitHub Copilot in here. Oh no, I updated that. I saw another question about keeping them running forever.
Yeah.
But John, does that answer your question? If you want to take a look at that, here's the big loop. I love mermaid charts. They help me understand and keep a mental model of things.
I'll dive in and look at it. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. It's a little long, so I apologize, but I promise it's been reviewed.
All right.
Yeah, the system is basically the same for hands-on sessions or otherwise. I do want to hit the Bert Herman question because I think that's a really good question. Do you think it's better to keep that live all the time? Doesn't that fill the context? I get it, you probably have compact, but I wonder about doing fresh sessions all the time. I'm going to be honest with you. I know I said that I like to keep one task per session, but ever since I set my auto compact at 300,000 tokens for a 1 million token session, I've done 7 or 8 hour sessions changing topics. If your system is set up with enough rigid guardrails, it doesn't matter. The agent are able to reach the tools and nudges and info to get it right. It really, you can change gears in the middle of a conversation. You can have it. The big thing is make sure you track all of your work using the session task list. That's another guardrail that really helps. And as long as it's keeping those task lists fresh and you're keeping an eye on that, it's fine. Even the autonomous ones, in fact, this one is something I'm working on so I can yell, hey, computer, and do a voice activation from a speaker in my room. But this is a perpetual session that runs and serves Slack as its own user. Where's Slack? 24/7. It's just on all the time. It has its own username, and I could anybody can DM it, or I can tag it in conversations, and you get conversations piped right into here. Again, I think I'm on the wrong fucking account. Usually I'm not switching back and forth, but I'm at the end of my session, my weekly session usage for one, so I haven't made the full swap and log everything out and log them back in again. So that's why this is so awkward. Usually it's just I pick one and ride it, but the compaction just isn't an issue. It really just hasn't been an issue.
What do you think? I saw that people were talking about compacting this week. What does that mean?
Compacting is simply summarizing the conversation so far and making it take up less memory or less context, but keeping the most valuable parts and hints so that it can stay on track. It's useful when you're running a long session or on a complicated thing. Mm-hmm. It's also useful if you don't want to have to start a new session all the time. I like to keep mine at about 300,000 tokens or 30% of the 1 million context window, because after 30% or after 300,000, you do start to notice the drift. It gets stupid. It's making mistakes. It's like repeating itself. And so really that happens around 400,000. You really start to notice it. But I found that 30,000 is a nice one. And because it's not so much to compact, the compaction is quick enough, and then they just added that nice little progress bar recently, which is nice. But 300,000 is nice. It's about 100,000 more than it used to be when it was only 200K, and it would compact at 180K. 300,000 is perfect for me. And I know that if it does compact and I start to notice it, I've only lost about 300,000 tokens worth of work, which is, maybe 25, 30 minutes.
And it sounds like you've been for a long time conversant with and comfortable with a terminal window. How help someone who's like still using the chatbot interface? Like, what should be the unlock for them? Why would they switch over?
It's the same thing. The only difference is it has the opportunity to actually run processes on your machine. So you can use your computer instead of using the environment that the cloud environment provides. But if you don't like the terminal, all you have to do is turn on remote control as a default, and it becomes the Claude Code web or mobile or desktop app interface. It looks just like Claude Chat. It's easier to upload images and files. It is you can still interrupt it. One of the big things that early on was like the reason why I like the terminal is because I can see all the stuff. There's a status line. I can customize my status line. I can keep all that stuff going. Do I have to start terminal sessions first to use remote control? Yes, you do. Which again is why the Raspberry Pi is so powerful, because that terminal sessions, they start automatically when the Pi starts. You can set that up as well. Or worst case scenario, you just open the terminal real quick, hit the up arrow, which is the most recent message you sent, which is to start Claude Code, and then you're done. And then you just go back to the web interface, the remote control web interface. But that little step, I used to just have it on my regular computer or my laptop. And that's why you see, by the way, all these people walking around with their laptops half open because they haven't figured out persistent sessions or tmux. And it's very funny and kind of cringe. But the Raspberry Pi running 24/7 is great. It's beautiful. But yes, Mac I feel like the Mac one is better, but once I realized that it was so bloated, I just didn't install Claude Desktop on my Mac. There's no reason to, in my opinion, especially when the web versions are better and everything.
Great.
Yeah.
I was just looking to see if we have to, I think maybe we'll leave it there.
Okay.
Does that sound good? Let's see it. Oh, thank you, Andrew.
Thank you. Yeah. I will say again, I'm spending stupid amounts of time doing this. This is not just something I'm casually doing. I spent 5.5, 6 months to get the summit. Can I show you the summit website real quick? Because I want to brag a little bit. I'm very proud of this. And there's nobody who would understand it more than you guys, but this was my magnum opus, no pun intended. And it worked. And I had zero problems, maybe a little bit of problems. But it actually worked. I was able to trim bloat. I'm just going to scare any real developers here. 107 cloud functions, 33 pages, 88 components, 51 rules-backed database collections, 137 scripts, 118 test files, and 47 routes. This is a map of every high-level map of every system architecture here, how it works, what the components do, and how they work here, the CMS pipeline in the back end, user authentication flows, how people log in and get access to stuff, speaker processing and approval, email client and sending, video rendering and processing, Eventbrite syncing, Firestore database collections, scripts, admin panel, and the about the thing. And this is what it looks like in the back end. We've got a full, customized multi-user CMS with different user permission levels. Again, we can compose and preview emails with templates, drafts, scheduled emails, and site banners, attendee lists, session lists, organizations, the email logs, and including a live speaker chat, which lets you chat with speakers in real time. I went crazy with this thing.
So you
and it
bundled
worked.
everything that was related to the summit.
Yes, this is all. I wanted a one-stop shop. I was, my boss, it really happened because my boss, I made a beautiful front-end website, and my boss immediately, Stephanie, was like, well, how do I edit this? And I was like, well, you don't, I do. And she's like, I need to change the language on this, and I don't want to edit HTML. So I was like, fuck it, fine. I'll wire in Airtable, and I'll make Airtable. I'll replicate all the components on the homepage as Airtable records. And then that was confusing. So I was like, fuck it. I'm making a whole CMS. We're making a CMS we're doing here. And then it just spiraled out of control there. And it worked. It's crazy. Not only that, but you can request a change. Like an admin can request a change that gets piped into that a non-interactive session here. Claude starts working on that, and then when the PR is ready to merge, I get an email saying, okay, it's ready to merge, and they get an email saying your request has been. I went buck wild on this thing, and even better, I even turned it into a little game. Let me see. Let me do it on mobile because no, we're not gonna do it on mobile. A game that you could go inside and you could do little quests. This is all within the CDS. I never got to debut this to anybody. My favorite part is this little bead board where every 10 minutes you can place a bead, like Reddit Place, if you remember. There's all kinds of map realistic interiors of Philly and Temple University, and nobody ever got to see it, including the Konami code, by the way. Up, up, down, down, left, right, BA transports you to another map in New York City. But
Joe, you might benefit from Claude, but we really benefit from you using Claude. So thank you so much for not just doing, but showing. I love that the collaborative spirit that you bring to this. Thank you so much for letting us into your API keys and your desktop.
of course.
Thanks,
Thank you so
humans.
much.
And if you have a desktop setup that you would like to showcase or have questions about something around that, let's talk. I noted that Lars mentioned something about a session getting into from prompt to merged PR. I'm going to Google that, figure out what that means, and then we'll maybe do a session on that.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, you guys. Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.